Hey there, guys. Thank you for joining today's live stream. I apologize that I have the stream a little bit early today. There's been a few changes as far as my schedule, and with clients and things of that nature, and that was the reason why I changed it. But next week, of course, we'll get back on track and have it at 12 o'clock, like we usually do every Wednesday. But I'm having it an hour early just to sort of counteract the schedule that I'm going with at the moment. So, as far as the things that I need to discuss before I get started, I do want to still mention that the Instagram live stream, I'm still doing those on Tuesdays at 12 at the same time that I do these live streams normally. So definitely watch those. I did have a great live stream yesterday that talked about the psychological benefits of exercise and fitness. So that's something that you should check out. And I will have another one next next Tuesday at 12. That'll be about the functions of muscles. That's what I'll be doing on Instagram this next Tuesday for the live stream to sort of discuss muscles. The next one I'm going to have as far as the Facebook live stream is about the cardiovascular system. That's going to be at 12 next Wednesday, February 15th. So definitely watch out for that live stream too. So again, doing 2 live streams a week. So I wanted to mention that in advance to let you guys know that I do have live streams every Tuesday on Instagram now, and then of course the Facebook on every Wednesday. So as far as for the topic today, I know in the past I've discussed the previous live streams I've discussed a little bit about some of the various systems of the body. So I'm going to kind of continue on with that, sort of, I guess, in a series, I guess you would say. But what I'm going to talk about next, as far as I'm going to be talking about the nervous system. So the nervous system is a very important system in our body. And you may not hear about it as much as some of the other systems, but this is an essential system when it comes to our overall human movement system. Now, so there's 3 separate systems. Before I go into a little bit more on the nervous system, there's 3 separate systems as it relates to the human movement system and the kinetic chain of our body. So you have the nervous, the skeletal, and the muscular system. These are all primarily focused on movement and motion. So basically the kinetic chain refers to how muscles, bones, and joints and nerves are linked together. So for example, during the squat, the hip, knee, and ankle and foot all move together to accomplish that motion. So the nervous system itself is a part of this dynamic of the human movement system. It's composed of these 3 systems: the nervous, skeletal, muscular system. These systems all focus on movement. So I wanted to mention that in advance. But of course, what we're talking about today is the nervous system. So what exactly is the nervous system? It is a specialized network of nerves that transmit signals throughout the body. So it's comprised of various functions, most of them involving sensory information to the brain, as well as stimulating our movements and muscle contractions. So that's a summary of basically what the nervous system is. So it's all about sending signals throughout our body, various signals, stimulating our movements, and having those signals basically contract, for our muscles to contract, sending signals to those muscles, having them contract, and just being able to, alert the body on what it needs to do with stimulating our movement through the neurons and nerves. So neurons is something that I'm going to talk about. This is a big part of the nervous system. So neurons are a specialized cell that is the functional unit of the nervous system. There are billions of neurons in our body that make up the complex structure of the nervous system. So neurons are basically sort of the pathway that the nerves are sending signals to. They're going through these neurons, giving away like electrical and chemical signals. So neurons form the core of the nervous system, and that includes the brain, the spinal cord, and the peripheral nerves. So as we continue on, there's various different ways that the nervous system is divided. So, and basically the way it's divided is into two separate groups. Also, there are subdivisions that I'm going to talk about here in a moment, but the nervous system itself is divided into two separate groups, and that's known as the central and the peripheral nervous system. So again, they're two interdependent systems, as known as the CNS, central, PNS, peripheral. So the CNS is composed of primarily the brain and the spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system is composed of the rest of the nerves in the body outside of the brain and spinal cord. So the central nervous system is just the brain and spinal cord. The peripheral is every other nerve in the body. Pretty simple to sort of understand that. So subdivisions, like I just mentioned, there's various subdivisions as it relates to nerves. And again, when I'm talking about the nervous system, I don't want to go into too much of, sort of big terms. I want to make this into a simplified way to sort of give you an understanding of what some of the primary functions are and some of the more important functions of the nervous system that are really simple to understand and that are the most important. Because at the end of this presentation, I usually try to relate everything that I talk about into fitness. So, of course, knowing these things is important. And, it's important for health. But not only that, is to know these systems and connect it to your overall fitness, how it can improve your health by being aware of these systems and how fitness can help benefit this particular system like any other system in our body. And that's what I'm trying to do with these when I'm talking about, a lot of these body systems, is to relate it back to fitness, because it's important to know these things and to know what these functions of the body do. But you also sort of want to know, I know you guys are more focused on what you want to know, what does it benefit? So I do want to mention that I know I'm talking about some of these terms and things of this nature, but I want to connect it back to fitness in a way to where you understand that, knowing these things in general is great. And, having that connection with fitness also helps with your understanding of the system as well as how it can benefit you. So that's something that I want to mention when I talk about these systems, is that I always try to connect them back to fitness and to give you an idea, okay, this does help when you're, putting exercise in your daily life. It's going to help this particular system. So again, going back to the nervous system and talking about the subdivisions of the nervous system, like I just mentioned. So the subdivisions include the autonomic, sympathetic, and parasympathetic nervous system. These are subdivisions separate from what I just discussed. So the autonomic system provides neural inputs to the organs to run involuntary processes. So that is the first major system that I'm talking about as far as the subdivisions. The sympathetic nervous system is another subdivision, and it is basically, so let me go back. Okay, so the autonomic or the okay, let me back up. Let me back up. So the sympathetic is a subdivision of the autonomic nervous system that works to increase neural activity in the body to a heightened state. And I'll explain a little bit more what that means. The parasympathetic nervous system focuses on decreasing neural activity and putting the body in a more relaxed state. So these are, even though it's not really understandable at the moment, these are very important to know. So I know I kind of mixed that up at the beginning there. So let me go back through these and sort of explain it a little bit better. So when we talk about the autonomic nervous system, So that is the division of the peripheral nervous system that basically supplies specific inputs to the organs to run involuntary processes. So when I talk about involuntary processes, that's the way the body is circulating blood, the way that our body is digesting food, producing hormones, things of that nature. So things that in our body are happening automatically, things that we don't just do. It just automatically, our body circulates blood, our body, digests food. That's basically what the autonomic nervous system does. So the sympathetic nervous system, let me explain this in better detail. So like I mentioned, it increases your neural activity for the body in a heightened state. So I thought I had a separate slide for that, but basically what it does is it increases the neural body at an active state. So basically what the sympathetic nervous system is sort of, bringing more impulses into the body. So like if you're doing fitness or, doing more vigorous activity, this system is going to be used. So it's bringing your body into a more heightened state. That's what the sympathetic nervous system is. The parasympathetic nervous system is completely opposite of that, in that it decreases neural activity to bring the body in a more relaxed state. So like when you're laying down, when you're resting, when you're sleeping, that's basically when the parasympathetic nervous system sort of does its functions. So I hope that you guys sort of understand that. So again, the autonomic nervous system focuses on circulating blood, focuses on these involuntary processes. The sympathetic nervous system focuses on bringing our body to a more heightened state. The parasympathetic nervous system brings our body to a more relaxed state. So I hope that you guys understand that a little bit better, and I hope I explained it better. So going beyond that, what I'm going to talk about next is reflexes. So basically what I got is a picture that sort of shows how our body reacts. So like when you talk about sort of reflexes and, sort of putting it as an example. So like when you're touching a hot flame, and like, for example, this happened to me recently where I burned my hand from the stove. Basically, your body, it doesn't react automatically. Your body sort of has to react to that stimulus. So like that burning stove has to react to that. So once your body sort of reacts to that stimulus, the nerve then sends like a receptor up your arm. So for example, for your hand, now different parts of your body, that specific nerve, say like in your leg, if you was to have a burn on your leg or something to that effect, the nerve of that specific part of your body is going to use that stimulus and send a receptor up to your afferent or sensory nerve and your efferent nerve, and it's going to go up to your spinal cord, and then your body's going to basically get that signal that you need to remove your hand. So that's basically what this means when it talks about all these separate sort of this roadmap of reflexes. So again, stimulus is basically what your hand, if you was to touch like a burning stove, your hand reacting to that. It's the stimulus is that burning stove. The receptor is once you feel that burning, you pull your hand away, it's sending, before you do that, it's sending that signal to your body, basically giving you your nerves the information that I need to pull my hand away. So that's basically what it means when you talk about reflexes. I think that's something really interesting to know. But that's what happens whenever we do certain things. If you, hit something, or like, again, with burning or just something to that effect, your body has to react to that stimulus, and then it's going to send a receptor that you need to, change your movement or move away. So I think it's interesting and something that is definitely, something you should know. Okay, so again, with the nervous system, like I mentioned before, you don't really hear about this system, but this system does a lot of really important things. And this sort of goes back to reflexes, but also it's more of an expansion of basically the signals that are sent to your brain. So The sensory, integrative, and motor function are one of the other important functions as it relates to the nervous system. So I've got another graph or diagram here that basically sort of explains different inputs. So like I mentioned before with reflexes, this is sort of similar. So when you feel thirsty and your eyes see water, you're sort of getting that sensory input that you want that water. So your nerves are basically sending that input to your brain. So for motor output, so this is completely opposite. So of course you've got the sensory input, which is, sort of your mind and your feeling wanting that water because you're thirsty. The motor input is, of course, grabbing that glass and drinking it. So the sensory input is basically the thought, and then the motor input is the action of doing that, if that makes sense. So your nervous system is basically, giving your brain all these signals on what to do. That sensory input is going to your brain, and that motor output is basically converting that sensory input into an action. So that's basically what this diagram sort of shows, is how your sensory input gives that signal, and then the brain sort of comprehends that and gives that output. So that's something else interesting to know, to sort of be aware of how your body reacts to things. So, like I mentioned before, what are some of the benefits as far as the nervous system and how it relates to physical activity? So there's various benefits that I'm going to talk about here. And that can be divided into movement, learning, and development. So these are important things to know. So movement, the nervous system itself helps individuals with their motor skills, like I just mentioned, which is specific movement throughout coordinated effort. Motor skills is important to do almost any daily activity, especially exercise. So a lot of the movement that you're using with exercise, your nervous system is functioning to allow you to do that movement. When you're picking up a weight, your nervous system is giving inputs, to do certain actions. Like you want to lift that weight, so your nervous system is sending that signal to your brain, and when you're lifting, it's giving that output. Like I just mentioned, you want to lift that weight, that's your sensory input, and then in your brain is converting that. When you're lifting that weight, that's the motor output. So that's the motor function that your body is basically giving, is, as far as your sensory output, your brain's converting that and giving that motor output to lift that weight. So any kind of movement that you do in daily life, your nervous system has a primary or a major role in creating that movement. Learning, that's another thing that is important with the nervous system. So humans, of course, are not born with fully developed coordination, and they are developed over time. So again, when we're younger, we don't have all these coordinated, fully developed coordination as we do. We have to learn these skills. So skills such as lifting weight are learned and acquired through repetitive actions. I mean, this is not only just fitness, but this is just life, the beginning of your life in general, or anything that you do. Your nervous system has a primary role in that. So again, any kind of skill, lifting weights is a skill. You have to learn how to do it. You have to do it through repetitive action. You have to be aware of your form. And the more that you do it, it comes second nature. Your nervous system plays an important role in that. And that's something to be aware of, is that any skills you learn is because of the nervous system. You want to learn how to do that. You want to lift that weight, like I just mentioned. You have to constantly do that. You can't just, go and lift weights, and you have to learn how to do it. So your nervous system is basically allowing you to have that function of gaining that skill. Development. So the mechanisms of a motor skill learning is related to brain development through neuroplasticity and neural circuitry. Basically, this kind of goes back to learning in some fashion. So when we talk about neuroplasticity and neural circuitry, basically what neuroplasticity is is it's the concept that the brain will continually grow and or change, reforming neural pathways throughout an individual's entire lifespan. Basically, summing it up is that the brain is going to constantly grow, it's going to develop. Neural circuitry is the interconnection of neurons in the brain and the spinal cord. So these are two things that are connected. It's just the nerves and the brain basically working together. And through our lifetime, our brain develops. When we're young, we don't have these skills. We sort of gain these skills as we get older. We learn new things. And our nervous system plays that role in sort of learning these new things. Again, that goes back to exercise. These movements you have to learn. You have to sort of gain that skill and develop that skill through repetitive action. And as you gain that skill, your brain sort of knows what to do. And those nerves sending that signal that this is what you're doing. And this is, like I mentioned, that sensory input is letting your brain know, I want to do this. And then your actions are that motor output. Alrighty, so that's basically all I have for you guys today. I really hope that you found this interesting. I think it's really important to know about this. This is not something you may have heard much about, but the nervous system has a very, very important function in our body. It does a lot of the actions that we do. I mean, anything that we do, our nervous system is working with it. It's basically giving these impulses in the body of what we want to do. If we're wanting to pick up something, do anything, our nervous system has an action in it. So again, I hope you guys found this valuable. I hope you got some information from it, and I hope that it sort of gives you an idea of how basically fitness is sort of related to this, because we have to develop skills. Like, fitness is a skill that has to be developed, and the nervous system is helping you develop that skill. So that's something important to know, and to sort of give you something to think about, throughout your day. Is you're doing daily things in your life. If you was to get hurt, your body's reacting to that stimulus, and it's a part of your nervous system. So something important to know, and I really think it's just vital for us to know as humans, because there's so many different aspects of our body that we need to know and be aware of. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I will have another live stream coming up next week where I'll be talking about the cardiovascular system. This is somewhat an expansion of some of the other systems I talked about, but this one, of course, is one of the most important because it relates to the heart and blood. So I'm going to be talking about that next week. And I want to mention that, of course, you can contact me as always through my phone number or my email. But I wanted to mention to you guys, I've not really said anything about it, but I do have a website that I'm working on at the moment. It's still being developed, and I'm working on it, trying to get it out. But I do want to let you guys know that I do have a website coming where it'll be connected to sort of my fitness program and sort of what I have to offer, and to be able to, I'll have a way where you can sign up for like the email newsletters and things of that nature. So I did want to mention that I do have a website coming soon. And of course, I'll share it on Facebook group or Facebook itself, or anywhere else as far as social media where I post pretty often as far as fitness related content. So definitely watch out for that. And that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this. Again, I hope you found this information valuable and something to take with you and to think about. That's the main thing that I want to do with these live streams, is to really go into detail about things you may not really hear much about, as far as, coming from a fitness trainer, because it's important stuff. It's the human body, and knowing the human body helps us with our physical activity as well. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next live stream.